What are some of the biggest fumbles in basketball? One of the biggest fumbles I actually think happened with the Orlando Magic back in the 90s. So here's what happened. The Orlando Magic were an up-and-coming young team. You have a young Shaquille O'Neal positioned with a young Penny Hardaway. For those of you who are too young to remember, this is Kobe and Shaq before Kobe and Shaq, okay? I want you to think of, your favorite shooting guard and put that person with the prime Shaq. That's how good a prime Penny Hardaway was. Injuries ruined his career, but he was really, really good. And when I show you the numbers, you're going to say, wow, those numbers were basically like on par with Kobe, if not better in some areas than Kobe Bryant, respectively. But let's just take a look overall at the picture. Okay, so we have a young Orlando Magic team who had just gone earlier to the NBA Finals. Now, they were swept by the Houston Rockets. They went up against a prime Hakeem Olajuwon. But I'm going to read you some of the numbers, okay, back in that final series when the Houston Rockets played the Orlando Magic. In that final series, Shaquille O'Neal averaged 28 points, about 13 rebounds a game, 6 assists, and about 2.5 blocks a game. Again, let me read those numbers again. He averaged about 28 points, about 13 rebounds, about 6 assists, and about 2.5 blocks a game. Those are unbelievably good numbers. Now let's put this against what Hakeem Olajuwon averaged. Hakeem averaged about 33 points, about 12 rebounds, and around 6 assists. So if you look at their numbers, his numbers were on par with Hakeem. They essentially kind of balanced each other out. Now let's look at Penny Hardaway. Penny Hardaway's finals, he averaged about 26 points a game, 8 assists, and about 5 rebounds. He shot 50% from the field, 45% just about from 3, and about 91% from the free throw line. So he averaged a 50, 40, 90 in the NBA Finals. Remember, at this time, he was in his early 20s, giving you about 25 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. Those are ridiculously good numbers. Those are Hall of Fame numbers that he was putting up in the NBA Finals in his early 20s. So his counterpart on the Houston Rockets would have been Clyde Drexler. That was, I think, who was the second best player. Clyde Drexler averaged around 22 points, 10 rebounds, and about 7 assists and a steal, around those numbers. Again, Clyde Drexler averaged around 22 points, 10 rebounds, and around 7 assists and a steal, around those numbers. So if we look at it, Penny Hardaway in his early 20s was maxing with Clyde Drexler, who was a Hall of Famer. And so why am I mentioning this? Because that Orlando team was really young, and they had a chance to probably win a couple championships. Jordan came back, but Jordan only came back for 3 more seasons before retiring. So had Shaq stuck with the Orlando Magic and Penny Hardaway not been hurt, I think Orlando would have been that team in the East, because I don't know who would have challenged them. But essentially what happened was the Orlando Magic had a contract renewal coming up with Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, and with Shaquille O'Neal's contract coming up, I think Shaq wanted something like around $115 million for 7 years. But the Orlando Magic did not want to sign it or give it to him. What really put a nail in the coffin is news press put out some information asking the general public if they thought Shaq was worth the 7 years, $115 million. And I think it was something like over 5,000 people put in, and over 90% said no. So this obviously put a big hurt on Shaq, and he ultimately signed with the Lakers for $120 million for 7 years, and the rest is history. He teams up with Kobe. A few years later, they get Phil Jackson. They ultimately win 3 championships together. But had the Orlando Magic not did that bozo move, he probably would have stuck it out with him, or there's a good chance he might have considered it more. And in addition to that, even at a Penny Hardaway not in his prime, if you have a prime Shaq surrounded by a couple other solid players, they probably still could have won a ring. Because remember, after Jordan was out of the East was left up for grabs, so to speak. But anyhow, those are my takes. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about the biggest sports fumbles.